So sorry, folks, having a little difficulty. Welcome again to our seminar. And I'd just like to give you some information about the Kensington. We are an enhanced assisted living located in White Plains, and we are committed to providing outstanding care every day with the full spectrum of clinical support, including caring for those with Alzheimer's and additional dementias. We encourage independence and confidence and focus on making each individual feel important. Our promise is to love and care for your family like we do our own. If you'd like some information about the Kensington and ways that we can assist you, please feel free to call us at 914-390-0080, or please go to our website at www.thekensingtonwhiteplains.com. There will be a Q&A at the end, so please feel free to type in your questions in the chat box or the Q&A box in Zoom. And all the attendees will receive a post-event email containing contact information of our speakers. So folks, please join me in welcoming our speakers for this evening, Adrienne Geiger and Barbara Newman-Mannix, both from A Dignified Life, plus Amy O'Hara from Littman Crooks. And I'd like to read their bios to you. Barbara Newman-Mannix is the founder and CEO of A Dignified Life. A Dignified Life develops and navigates care plans with elders and family members. They assess safety, living conditions, cultural influences, socioeconomic, and family dynamics to identify a comprehensive care plan that addresses specific needs. Barbara is a certified care coach and family life educator. Adrienne Geiger is the Director of Family Advocacy at A Dignified Life. Adrienne has over 15 years experience with corporate management, research and planning in the merchandising and retail arena. Today with A Dignified Life, she supports her clients, helping them navigate the journey of aging, stressing safety, quality of life, and dignity. Welcome, Barbara and Adrienne. Amy O'Hara is a partner with the law firm Littman Crooks. Her practice is focused in the areas of estate planning administration, trust administration, guardianships, special needs planning, personal injury settlement consulting, and elder law. Amy is certified as an elder law attorney by the National Elder Law Foundation. Additionally, Best Lawyers in America has recognized her for excellence in elder law and trust and estates. Amy regularly publishes articles relating to estate and special needs planning. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Take it from here. It's all you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Shall I start? Okay. I'm Barbara Newman-Mannix, as Brenda said, and I'd like to thank Brenda and the Kensington staff for inviting us to participate in the program tonight. We're very lucky to have Amy O'Hara with us and feel honored to have the opportunity to participate in discussing the information with such a knowledgeable panel. So the subject of tonight is having the talk and then how to pay for it. So we start these conversations in a very sensitive way. Most of us don't have the experience with seniors regarding their change in status and their abilities. Because of these transitions, it may be time to discuss alternative living environments, specifically assisted living.
And then this is a conversation that I've had many times, and it's very close to my heart. It melds compassion with action. And once you're aware of these transactions, it could be dismaying, but listening and having a discussion will help. I brought up one prop. This is my favorite thing when you're having the conversation or any conversation. First, you listen, but these words mixed up say silent. And it's something to remember that when you're listening, you should stop and hear. It's not confrontational, it's a discussion. your senior at this point has made a decision to move, and that's great news. It can be a more focused conversation, and it could elicit enthusiasm because now they're starting a new chapter in their lives. The best way to do this is to gather the important people in their lives, keep the group small, and each person can speak, but without interruptions. Have an agenda, have a pad, and Zoom if needed. Use the phone for long distance caregiving, and the shared conversations produce the best results.
So to staying positive, which I know is a very difficult challenge in these kinds of situations, because we have no experience in this. We're, as I say, in 10,000 feet of water, and neither does the senior. This is the first time that they're going through a transition that they haven't chose. I always say, you know, you plan your life and you go to college and you get married and you plan your career and, you know, buy a home and you plan everything, even your lawn, but you don't plan on aging and you don't know what it's going to be like once you get there. So you have to take these things into consideration. And when you start to see either in yourself or in your senior a difference in your activities of daily life, that's when you really need to start to focus. And that's where assisted living comes in a very gracious way. So just to review, the activities of daily life are bathing, grooming, dressing, meal prep, toileting, ambulation, and memory.
Then there's always the safety issue. It's a paramount factor in making the decision. You're changing your living environment. And what is more important than safety? It's the most important part with your quality of life. It's difficult. They may not be able to climb stairs any longer. The elders might be embarrassed to say they need help. They might think the house is getting away from them. There's maintenance issues. There's all kinds of things, but it starts a conversation. That's the important part.
You know, if you think about the way that homes were constructed when our parents and their parents were in the process of buying homes, everything was 2 stories. Nobody thought about the fact that we'd never, you know, be able to climb stairs or that stairs would become challenging. You know, lighting was different, steps into the house, no attached garage. Maintaining all of those routines is exhausting. So I think if you start with, this is a difficult conversation to have, and I know I'm going to go through it. I know that we all get faced with these challenges, and bring, as Adrian says, bring professionals to the conversation, bring the professionals to the party. Call the doctor, call your attorney, as Amy will discuss. Can you afford this? Your financial advisor. As the decision, as we said, has already been made to move, hopefully to the Kensington, then you know, you've consulted a lot of these people. But you know, you have to remember what the goals are and find solutions and not obstacles to finding problems and concerns.
Right. It really isn't. This isn't a contest. This isn't a win-win. I win because you're listening to me. When you're having the conversation, really, there are no you should do. It is, I have a concern. I would like to express this. Mom, have you considered? Make it as personal as you need it to be. Bringing in a third party to help with the discussion is also important. A neutral mediator can help. And then go through this conversation, considering the contrast between staying home and going to a wonderful new home like the Kensington. I have a little list from comparison factors.
Yeah,
What's your social? Yeah.
No, I was just going to interject one thing, which we neglected. Timing is everything. Please, Adrian.
Avoid the crisis. I think that's what we want to say. Start the conversation when it's just a thought, because decisions that are made in a crisis can lead to mistakes. if you plan, just as Barbara was saying, if you're planning, if you're taking a tour, if you're having the conversation, you might be able to say, this is the apartment I want. This is the view I want, and then take it step by step. And then going back to comparing why you should not stay home, and not should not, but why I feel your life would be better. Let's talk about quality of life, your social life. Look at this week with the rain. You couldn't get out. If you were in a lovely environment, there are neighbors right there. It's warm, it's friendly. There are people to speak with. You are not alone. You don't worry about transportation. If you're home, you could think you're a burden to asking someone for a lift. If you're in a place like the Kensington or an assisted living facility, they have a car, there's a van. If you can't get into a car, a van can lift a wheelchair. It's fantastic. You're not dining by yourself. You're not worried about nutrition. You're not running to the store. The milk is spoiled in the refrigerator. What's fresh? You're going to a dining room. Somebody is serving you. There are choices, there's options. They can tweak it for special needs, special dietary needs. Housekeeping, who wants to do it? None of us. If you're in a place that changes your sheets, washes your towels, they come in and vacuum, they dust, they empty the garbage, who wouldn't want that? I mean, there's a million other things to think about. We don't have to enumerate them, but think about in an emergency, there's a blackout. Kensington has its own power. There won't be a blackout there. It'll be a brownout for a minute. There's exercise facilities. You become more independent in an assisted living facility than if you were home alone and worried about how to navigate being home. And if you do tour, when you do tour, try to meet the heads of departments. Look at the menu. Speak with other residents. They are the best mayors and will tell you everything. And you'll see, are these people the people I want to sit with? Just need to make one or two friends. There are doctors that visit the Kensington. So whether you want to maintain your doctors or use doctors who are visiting, it's right there. It's a fantastic alternative. If you look at it in a positive light, it's a new chapter.
Thank you, Adrienne. So as Adrienne was saying when we first started, don't forget to listen and don't forget to breathe. Because, you know, I mean, literally, you're so pent up and you have so much anxiety anticipating this conversation. Encouragement is important, and really understanding and putting yourself in your parents' or your loved one's place. This is difficult. These are not light decisions to make. And just like every other major decision in your life, it comes gradually and from confidence and from knowledge. So I think that really makes the difference in success. And I just want to add one thing to what Adrienne was saying about her list of attributes in an assisted living environment, is that all of the resources that you see before you here, be it Amy or us, and a slew of other resources. Brenda and her colleagues are available at all times to help the resident, to help the family, to enlighten, refer, and you really gain a family and gain a community when you make the decision to move. So with that, I say take it away, Amy.
Hello, thank you, Brenda, for having us today, and I'm delighted to share this panel with Adrienne and Barbara. I'm having some audio problems, and so I'm called in on my phone, and I hope that you could hear me okay. I know it's probably not as good as my microphone through my camera, but for some reason, it just decided to stop working. So I'm going to talk about how to pay for assisted living. You know, making that successful transition to assisted living includes spending time thinking about how to pay for it. It's certainly a stressful, process for many families, and you need to think about the healthcare needs and weighed against the affordability, in the assisted living, you want to think about life expectancy. Medicare only covers short-term non-custodial care and cannot be used for assisted living. While it can cover some health care needs in an assisted living, through certain medications or injections, but it doesn't cover the cost of the room and board, let's say. And similarly, private health insurance such as Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield do not cover assisted living costs. Many families use private funds to pay for assisted living. However, there are other options available which you may not have thought of, and I'm going to just review some of them today. Firstly, what many people do think of is using income and savings to pay for assisted living. Social Security, pension, any type of income, your required minimum distribution from retirement accounts. You need to, the new rules as of last year, you could wait to defer to start taking required distributions until you're 72 years old, which allows the retirement assets to grow a bit more. If you happen to be under 72 and need assisted living, it's not a problem to start taking distributions early. As long as you're 59 and a half, you can take it without a penalty. But even if you're under 59 and a half, if you're disabled, you can also take it without a penalty. You just will always be subject to income tax if it has not, if it's not a Roth IRA and it's a traditional retirement asset such as an IRA or 401k, you'll be subject to the income tax rules from taking the distribution. Investment, income, dividends, interest, annuities. Annuity is a contract where you give an insurance company money that is later distributed back to you over time. Annuity contracts traditionally provide a guaranteed distribution of income until your death or until a final date, whichever comes first, whichever is part of that contract that you contract for. Investments, your principal that you have in investments and brokerage accounts or savings accounts, CDs, all of that are typical ways that people think of that is used when paying for assisted living. Other options include long-term care insurance. You will need to be in an accredited assisted living like the Kensington to use the policy. The policy goes into effect when you need assistance with 2 or more activities of daily living. As Barbara highlighted before, and we call them ADLs sometimes, activities of daily living include bathing, continence, dressing, mobility, feeding, and toileting. So 2 of those. You need to, and with a long-term care policy, there's different components to it. What is the daily benefit and daily rate? So some policies may cap at $150 a day or $300 a day, but then the cost per day could be greater than that. And so how will you supplement that? And it may be going back up to what I mentioned before in terms of using Social Security and pension to, use the long-term care insurance plus income to pay for the assisted living. When looking at a long-term care policy, it's not just a daily benefit, but what's the benefit period? What's the contract? What did you contract for? Is it a number of years, such as 3 years or 5 years? Or is it an unlimited policy that there isn't an unlimited benefit period? But on top of that, there could also be a maximum lifetime benefit that the policy doesn't pay out it only it's $1 million worth of coverage or $500,000 worth of coverage. So it's just important knowing all of those considerations in the long-term care policy when you're thinking about how to pay for this. Does the daily benefit have an inflation rider? Did you purchase the long-term care policy 20 years ago and now $150 daily benefit is now $250 daily benefit or $300 daily benefit? All of the things, and you could always contact the company, the long-term care insurance company, to get an updated policy specification page, and it'll go through all of these things. Oftentimes there's a waiting period. There could be a 90-day waiting period or 180-day, usually 90 days is typical, where the policy won't start paying until you wait 90 days until you actually need the insurance, 90 days after the start date of when you need it. Oftentimes keep in mind, because the stress of, okay, now I have the stress of paying for the assisted living, how am I going to pay the premiums? Well, usually all policies that I've seen, the premiums, you no longer are responsible for paying the premiums on the long-term care insurance policy once you activate the policy and start taking distributions from it. Other ways, home equity. So you could sell or rent your home. You could sell it, top market in Westchester these days, or wherever you're coming from. You could also rent your home if you don't want to sell it and get income from that way. Now that is certainly an added stress of who's going to oversee the rental and so forth, but certainly an option. You could consider a reverse mortgage. A reverse mortgage allows you to tap into your home equity so that you could either receive a lump sum distribution or a monthly cash flow to supplement your income. Now, there are certain requirements with reverse mortgages. You have to be at least 62 years old, own your home, and have some equity in your home. There's some advantages to that. You don't have a mortgage payment if you take withdrawals from a reverse mortgage. You still own your home. The payments are not taxable. And there's typically no need to provide any income or credit history in order to get the loan. Now, always with advantages, there's some disadvantages. There is a limit, that amount that you could take set by the federal government on the loan. And that's a bit over $800,000. Now, if your home is valued at $600,000, you're not going to be able to take $800,000. It'll be usually can't take 90. You have to take like 75% less than what your value is. If you are going to move out of your home, and so when you take out a reverse mortgage, if your spouse is a co-borrower with you and they continue to reside in the home, then there will not be an issue with having to pay back the reverse mortgage if you need assisted living care. However, if you do not have a co-borrower and it's just you, and you're absent from the home for 12 consecutive months or longer, the reverse mortgage will need to be paid back, meaning you're going to sell your home. Also, this of course impacts the inheritance for your beneficiaries, whoever they may be, whether it's children or other family members or friends or charities. The reverse mortgage has to be paid back when the home is sold or at your death. Another option to consider if you're trying to sell your home, but it may take some time, is a bridge loan or a senior living line of credit. It's a short-term loan. Usually it's capped out at a certain amount while you're in the process of liquidating assets, but might just be very careful, and be careful with what I'm talking about today with all of these possible mortgages or loans or dealing with different products, because you want to absolutely go to a reputable lender. There is scrupulous people out there that unfortunately take advantage of seniors, and you just want to check the references and check to make sure that you're going about it in the right way. Other options, life insurance, okay? So you may have a life insurance policy and you could surrender it and use the cash value, because some life insurance policies have cash value to it. If it's a universal or a whole life policy, and you could use the cash value. Another often overlooked aspect, which is concerning to some people, but it's certainly an option when you're really crunched for cash flow, is selling your insurance, your life insurance. There's a third-party market for life settlement companies that will buy your life insurance and pay you a sum. It could be 50 to 75% of the value, and they'll continue paying the premiums on your life. And what happens is and this is where the people find it, a little bit disturbing, that they're betting on your life that you're not going to live that long, so that they're going to get the payout. But it certainly has come in beneficial for families from time to time in freeing up assets and having that cash. Other options, let's see, veterans benefits. So consider veterans benefits if you're a veteran or a surviving spouse of a veteran. There's pension and aid and attendance. Now you need to meet certain requirements in order to qualify, including a 1 day. You have to be in the service 1 day during active wartime. The war times are very broadly defined, and there's actually more, we've been in more active wartime periods than we have not. So usually it's not an issue for that. You also, when we're looking at aid and attendance benefits, your net worth needs to be under about $130,000, which includes your annual income. Now, if you're paying, and I'm going to talk about this in a few minutes, but if you're paying medical expenses, including expenses for assisted living, those are deductible against your net worth. And so we'll decrease that number. Also, if you happen to make any gifts of assets within the last 3 years, there's a look back period to qualify for aid and attendance benefits with the VA. So keep that in mind if you made any major gifts in the last 3 years and you look to qualify for an aid and attendance benefit. The person needs to be 65 or older and have a total and permanent disability, and need help with activities of daily living, those ADLs that Barbara and I mentioned before. The average payment of aid and attendance pension benefits is usually between $1,000 and $2,000 a month, and that could certainly help. It always goes. It helps. Every dollar helps. New York State has a voucher program that provides assistance, financial assistance to the assisted living on your behalf for persons with dementia. And it's a unique program. It has not been around for that long. They do have, there's oftentimes a waiting period. They only have limited spots available for individuals to qualify for this voucher program. But what's nice about it is that it offers financial assistance to you if you're living in an assisted living, and will help pay for your care. Now it needs to be memory care, and you have to have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or some type of dementia. But it's certainly a good option if you're running out of money. Not all assisted living facilities participate in this voucher program, but fortunately the Kensington does participate, and it's certainly something that you don't want to forget about, but I know that the Kensington's aware of this, and they would certainly walk you through this. There is a 1-year requirement so that you have to live in, this is not a Kensington requirement, it's a New York State requirement, that you have to live in the assisted living for a period of 1 year before you qualify, for at least 12 months before you could qualify. And there is also an income and asset test. So in the Hudson Valley region, your income needs to be less than about $6,200 a month, and your resources have to be less than about $60,000 of assets, and that you cannot be on Medicaid. This is only available for individuals who are not receiving Medicaid. Most assisted livings do not accept Medicaid as a form of payment, so it's typically not an issue for individuals in assisted living. And if you're accepted into this program, the resident could receive up to 75% of that average regional cost, which is about, they would pay about $7,000 or $7,500 a month. And then the resident's still responsible, though, for the difference of the fee for the assisted living. A couple other things is family support. We have, many family members who are able to pay for their parent, let's assume it's a parent or even a sibling's care in assisted living. They're fortunate that they've they've done well in life and have the resources and the means to supplement a family member's care. So that's always an option, is family support. There's various tax credits. Now that's certainly not income in, but when you look at it, it's less taxes that have to be paid. There is a credit for elderly or disabled individuals. There's some requirements there, excuse me. And there's also medical expense deduction, which is if you incur medical expenses, including payment and cost for assisted living, and we take your AGI, so your adjusted gross income, and if your adjusted gross income, let's say, is $50,000 for the year, and it's usually on the first page of the tax return towards the bottom. If you have medical expenses that exceed 7.5% of your adjusted gross income, then anything in excess of that is deductible. So for example, if your adjusted gross income is $50,000, 7.5% of that is $3,750. If you have $20,000 worth of medical expenses, then you're actually able to deduct $16,250 of that as a medical deduction. So certainly don't lose sight of that. And often what you may need some supporting documentation, and the assisted living can provide what your payments are, and keep receipts. You know, I always tell families, keep a folder of everything that you spend, if it's for continent care, if it's for special food, of course, prescriptions or co-pays. Keep all the receipts and add it up, because it adds up. And, you know, people are surprised sometimes when they could get that deduction. You know, a couple other options that aren't necessarily tied to the Kensington are, you know, sometimes you consider a roommate, or, you know, there's, again, most in New York, and this is speaking to New York, most assisted livings do not accept Medicaid as a form of payment. There's a very few out there, very long waiting list, but it's usually not an option. You could enroll in, there's different discount programs sometimes for seniors. You could work with a senior move manager that could help with downsizing and minimizing costs with the move. Look at a la carte pricing versus inclusive pricing. And so there's different things to look at there. And all of that, you know, it's also important, and this is me wearing my estate planning hat, is if you're incapacitated, and I talked about a couple things here where if you or your loved one are suffering some type of incapacity, you want to make sure that you have the estate planning documents in place that will designate somebody to legally help you with this, and to pay your bills and to coordinate all these different programs or care that I mentioned, including power of attorney, financial power of attorney. You know, are you acting as somebody's agent, as an agent for your mother or your spouse? And who is that successor agent? And keep records. Revocable trust. Are you, you know, does the individual have a revocable trust? And is there a mechanism in place to designate that for you to step in as a successor trustee if the person can no longer act on their behalf? You want to have that, you know, that ability to make sure that that is legally in place. It just makes everything much easier, because if it's not and you suffer some type of incapacity, the last resort is a guardianship, and we never want to go there. It's bad on all fronts. It's very intrusive for families. You lose control. It's very expensive in terms of legal fees. So, you know, having a well-drafted power of attorney, and sometimes in addition, a revocable trust are items to consider. Sometimes you have joint accounts with your children. You want to be careful about that. Certainly joint accounts are very helpful. You know, I'm an only child, and my mom's older and I'm joint on hers. It's easy, because when my mom needs help, I could just write a check. But when you get into multiple beneficiaries or other family members, and there's discord, and, you know, what are you spending on mom? It just could could be a recipe for disaster sometimes, unless if you have that family conversation, that family meeting. So just, yes, there's certainly joint accounts for convenience purposes, but think that through carefully if that's something that you pursue. So that really concludes what I'm going to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. So I cannot believe the amount of information that the three of you just provided. And I have a lot of takeaways. First, Adrienne and Barbara, I like what you said about the shared conversation to bring professionals into the picture. And I also like what you said about the bringing in the neutral party. So can you talk a little bit more about the neutral party? I really like that idea, so that the mom or dad doesn't feel ganged up on, or that there's someone else who is kind of there to listen. So what are some of the people that you were talking about as that neutral party?
Take it, Adrienne.
Well, here we are. I mean, that's one of the things that a dignified life does. We do act as a mediator. A third party somehow, if we say exactly what your children have said to you, it's heard differently. There's nothing that we have to gain by making a suggestion. And also at a family meeting, we can help move the conversation along. We can say, oh, Brenda, you've had your 5 minutes already. Please move on. Sorry, Brenda. But it is a way to facilitate a meeting calmly. And we have no history. We come in, obviously, we will have met with the family, the children, whoever decides to hire us. And let's get a game plan. Let's see what is our goal. Let's discuss the goals and how to achieve them. And as I said, it's not a contest as who wins. It's what is best for the senior.
Right.
Also, if I could just add that, and I think that Amy can definitely attest to this, we have an opportunity to do a different type of homework before we sit down with a family. Calling Amy and strategizing about a situation and a path forward. It might be financial, it might be legal, and really, so we get the addition. Brenda, we've done it with you, of course. We understand what the circumstances are, as Adrienne said, and the goals, but that we get to do our homework, we get to do research, we get to find perspective and really bring that breadth of opportunity, to the table with neutrality.
And don't you think, because there's no emotional ties, right? You don't have the emotional tie. And I like the idea, like you said, you are Switzerland, right? You're there trying to help, doing the best for the person. And there's no emotional tie. So I think, don't you agree, it makes it easier?
Absolutely.
You certainly see clear. And you have the experience of having done this many times. I mean, we want to treat everyone fairly. We always say there's no one size fits all, but we're all talking about paths that we're all going to go down, and we have that experience to understand and provide perspective.
Okay.
I wanted to add one thing about the Kensington. I have had experiences there, and tying into what Amy was talking about with long-term care and getting assessed, things like that. I have worked with the management of the Kensington to prep the resident for an assessment, and it's been the Kensington who has helped guide us. And I think that experience and the knowledge that your management comes with helps get the biggest bang for what people have paid for decades,
Right.
and gets to use.
Well, it's interesting that you're even saying that. I know, because we have so much experience with the few insurance companies that are left that provide the long-term care, that they're now used to us. So
Right.
we're used to them, right? We know what we have to provide to them. They're used to us. They know, well, the Kensington's on the up and up. We've worked with them before. I mean, we've been around for 10 years. So thank you for that
But
comment.
it's true,
Yeah.
it's a service to the family that your expertise just makes it another third-party calm person.
Mhm. And Amy, I wanted to say, you talked about so many wonderful things, options for payment. I liked what you said about you want to make sure that whatever you're looking into, that they are reputable people, reputable financial people, to make sure you're not going to someone who Joe Schmo down the street. Because even for yourself as an attorney, to come to you because you know the ins and outs, you know the laws, you know the regulations, you know the background. So, I know people sometimes want to save money and they want to fill out forms and do it themselves, but they don't have that experience and they may not know how to correctly answer a question, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, and spending, even if it's like a consultation fee or if, depending on what it is, if it's something under my elder law hat or it's under a dignified life hat, it's sitting down and making sure that paperwork's completed properly because, and that you're dealing with, and that you've kind of checked the boxes and that you're dealing with a reputable company because there's terrible situations out there with fraud.
Right. Okay, folks, let's take some questions. I see we've got some questions here. Let's see. Gloria is asking, what is it called again for memory care? I'm not sure. What do you call? The voucher program. The voucher program.
Okay, so it's a special needs assisted living residence voucher demonstration program for persons with dementia. It's a mouthful, but it's actually New York State has a website with a lot of valuable information for consumers, for caregivers and family members. That's not too technical. And so you could find information by Googling it. And let me just repeat that again. So it's Special Needs Assisted Living Residence Voucher Demonstration Program for Persons with Dementia. You could probably Google Assisted Living Voucher Program, New York State, and you'll get it up. It'll come up. Or Brenda, also, I don't know if you have any pamphlet of information on that, but.
Yeah, unfortunately we don't because it is a Department of Health program.
It is, yeah.
But you were correct.
You can easily pull it up online and there's information there's a guide on there for family members and there's FAQs and it's like a 2-page application. It's quite straightforward, not complicated.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, it's a great program. With COVID last year, I know that the Department of Health kind of put it on hold. So as you stated, we are allowing that program here, and we've got some residents on the program. The residents that are currently in our building continued, but the Department of Health was saying we're going to hold off, and this was last year, for new people. Well, sometime I want to say the first quarter of this year, they decided to re-engage it so that any new people that come on board, again, making sure that they qualify, are able to take part in this program. It's a great program though, for folks that have spent down their money. You can get a good portion of the fees paid for in assisted living, but the assisted living has to be a part of this program. And there are very few right now that are a part of it. Definitely the Kensington is, not many though, but it's a great program. And as you said, Amy, the Department of Health website really is very explanatory. It tells you what are the stipulations, payments, monies, everything like that. So great program.
Exactly, it does.
Amy, can I ask, can you use long-term care to supplement that $7,500 a month?
Yes, I don't see any, because long-term care is usually not considered income.
Right.
So as long as you meet the other income requirements, the payment for the long-term care is not considered income, so it should not be a problem.
Great. So folks, we do still have some time. If anyone has questions, please feel free, put it in the Q&A box or where is it? In your screen, either at the top or the bottom of your Zoom. Just type in the questions. And we've provided a lot of information tonight. at the end, in a couple of minutes at the end of this event, we'll put up a slide that has the contact information. So we're going to give you a good double whammy.
Mhm.
The slide has the contact information of our presenters, but also you'll be receiving an email with the contact information. I do recommend if you've got questions, you want more information, please feel free to contact our speakers. As you can see, they are a wealth of knowledge.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
ladies, anything else that you want to add?
Barbara
Don't
said,
wait.
breathe,
Don't
calm,
wait.
don't wait.
Don't wait. Keith.
Start the
And
conversation
that's actually a
as
very,
early
that's,
as you can.
that's a very good, excellent point, I guess maybe for us to finish on, because even it's, don't wait for even talking with you and getting ideas, you know, and plan a couple years if possible. And certainly with any type of elder care planning. And elder care planning is not just Medicaid planning by any means. You know, that's a small percentage of elder care planning. And it's, you know, it's making sure those documents are in place, or talking about having this conversation about funding assisted living, or even, you know, because people are run to jump that they got a premium increase from John Hancock or Genworth for an increase, and they're run, well, I don't need this, I've been paying this, and then they decline it, or sometimes actually this, you know, I had a couple, you know, longtime clients this past back in May, they had an increase. She's 5 years younger than he is. And we decided that it made sense to decrease his lifetime benefit to a 10-year benefit because they have sufficient resources on their own. And he is in his mid-80s, and he's quite healthy. And so we decreased his, and he was able to save some money that way. But we kept her lifetime benefit. So it's good to kind of go through the different options and just not knee-jerk when you're looking at a premium increase.
And
And it's
again, I
not a
think it
one
goes
and
back
done.
to contacting the professional. You know, don't, like you said, Amy, don't make that knee-jerk reaction. Contact someone who can really look through it and help. Right?
And yes, and if you're younger, you know, the newer, the long-term care products are not always your traditional, what you think of long-term care, and that there's hybrid products out there that have a life insurance aspect to it, so that if you never need to tap into long-term care insurance, that, you know, those premiums that you paid, well, your family members can get something back, and that's more palatable for people. Now, it's not always as great as a traditional long-term care policy, but it's certainly an option to consider.
Okay. Well, thank you, ladies, Adrienne, Barbara, and Amy. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And I also want to thank my colleague, Christiane Lee. She is the man behind the curtain. If you remember the Wizard of Oz, she actually provides all the assistance on the back end of these events. So thank you, Chris. And folks, if you'd like to learn more about the Kensington, please feel free to go to our website, www.thekensingtonwhiteplains.com, or you want some information about the Kensington, you can call us 914-390-0080. And remember now, we do have a part 2 of the series. Part 2 is called The Move, How to Get Organized and Sell the Home. So if you think of, you're really considering assisted living, or you've already made the choice, what do you do with mom's stuff? What do you do with all of dad's stuff? Really need to see part 2. That will be on July 27th, 6:30 p.m. Please go to our website again to register, www.thekensingtonwhiteplains.com/events. And please stay put. We're going to put up that end slide so that you can jot the contact information down of our speakers if you'd like to contact them. Thanks, folks, and have a really great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Boy.
Step